Time to talk about the Titanic. I was going to do a video on the Titanic a couple months ago. Got involved in other things, just kind of put it off and forgot about it. But it's an important subject because this was a big turning event in history. Titanic incident was one of the things that led up to World War I, and I don't believe it was an accident, like they claim. No, there's considerable evidence. I've always suspected that. I finally decided to start looking into it. Thousands or millions of us. And they operate and manipulate everything. They manipulate the satanic Jews, Rothschilds, Rockefellers, okay, the banksters, who control the industrialists, who control the fronts, okay? So you got banksters like the Rothschilds, Warburg Schiffs, Goldmans, control the industrialists, the Rockefellers, Monsantos, and all these people who control the puppet fronts, the leader fronts like the Bushes, the Clintons, the House of Windsor, all the Margaret Thatchers and all these people, Tony Blair, Kennedys and Lincolns and all these people. They're the third tier. And anyway, the Titanic was deliberately set. I watched a video on this a while ago, except they didn't take it as far as I take it. Very few people take things as far as I take them. I peel the onion to the core. Most people are only comfortable going so far. Okay, the Titanic, and about 95 to 99, between 95 and 100% certain, the Titanic was not the Titanic, it was the Olympic. Okay, its sister ship, the Olympic. The Titanic was built about a year after the Olympic, and the two ships were almost identical. The Titanic was a slightly bigger, but the main difference between the Titanic and the Olympic was the nameplate, all right? This Captain Smith, and this is just, there's no justice in this world, okay? The guy was a bumbling idiot. And of course, so he's a bumbling idiot, so what do? They make him their top captain and give him the most money. And there's probably a lot more worthy captains working for the White Star Line, but they don't give him the top job, which would have saved the Olympic and saved the disaster. But these people always do things for multiple purposes. But anyway, the Captain Smith clown had 3 times smashed his ship into other ships, okay? It was partially not his fault, but if he was a really, really good captain, he would have avoided the situations, I'm sure. The Olympic was damaged, and it would have cost more money than it was worth to fix it, okay? And so it was going to be a serious problem, and it might have eventually sunk anyway, just from the damage. Okay, but the ship was partially repaired at a huge cost to the White Star Line, and it was going to be non-stop problems through its whole history, because it had been in 3 collisions. And the decision was made to sink the Olympic, but call it the Titanic. The White Star Line, they would normally insure their ships for about 3/4 of their value, because so they're taking a little bit of risk, but it keeps their insurance premiums down. If they lost a ship, they would still take a loss, but they'd only take a quarter loss. So they're like hedging their bets, you know. A brand new Titanic that they just built, they insured it for more than its value. So I think it was like $1 million it was worth, and they insured it for like 1.2 million. Okay, and then it made a voyage. Oh, how convenient! So the White Star Line made up some of the loss that they had on with the Olympic. 2 ships were right next to each other for a couple months. It wasn't hard to just order a crew to replace them. Apparently there was a lot of people who knew about it. They had a hard time getting crew to get on the Titanic, which was the Olympic. Apparently a lot of people knew about this. Anyway, the Californian was supposed to go out there and wait for the Olympic. This is the story, because they were going to sink it, deliberately ram it into an iceberg to sink the thing, and then the Californian was supposed to take off all the crew, off all the survivors, you know, so nobody was supposed to get killed. That didn't happen. Well, it didn't happen because of the plans. So obviously they always have plans within plans. Like Baron Harkonnen said in the book Dune, plans within plans. Yes, they have plans. So obviously, for some reason, they can't ever fire a captain who's incompetent, so they decided to just kill him. But he was told about the plan, obviously. And there were a lot of people on board the ship that were told the one plan, but they weren't told the other plan. The one plan they were told is they were going to sink the ship and take everybody off with the Californian. The real plan was to kill a bunch of people for human sacrifice to Satan or whatever, and as well as create tensions, class tensions, which would eventually lead up to World War I. Anyway, the Californian went out to there and stopped in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, North Atlantic, supposedly to wait for the Titanic, which was the Olympic, to crash into an iceberg and take all the people off. Okay, and they did that. The captain did that, thinking he was going to get rescued. But for some reason, there was supposedly another ship that was in the way that was supposedly illegally hunting seals. It was supposedly a sailing ship, and they were shooting white flares. And some people say, well, the Californian got it confused, and that's why they didn't come to the Titanic's rescue, because people could see the lights of a ship off, and they were firing rockets, distress rockets, and the ship just sat there and didn't do anything. But the Californian had shut off his radio, told his radio guys to go to bed. And why the hell would he have done that if he knew the Titanic was supposed to get, the Olympic he was supposed to rescue these people? Why would he tell his radio man to go to bed? Obviously, this is part of the plan. And then the Titanic was launching lifeboats that were like half full. And they had one lifeboat they launched that had 12 people when it had a capacity of like 68. I mean, so obviously there were insiders on the Titanic that were working and doing this stuff. The captain was freaking telling the lifeboats to come back and get more people. They didn't. Another cute thing they did is they opened up this hatch. And supposedly they were going to try to bring people and bring lifeboats over and load more people through the hatch, which would, I guess, been easier than loading them up on deck. And then they opened the hatch, but they didn't load any more passengers on. So obviously there was insiders on this ship making sure as many people could die as possible. The lower class people were trapped below. They were deliberately, they had the doors locked so they couldn't get out until all the upper class people were loaded. So there were actually more first class men than third class children that survived, which created an uproar, which created more class tension, which is one of the things that led to World War I. Per plan. Anyway, they left the hatch open, and this Titanic was initially listing to starboard until it reached this hatch, which was open. And once that thing was underwater, millions of gallons of water was pouring through the hatch, which then started tilting to port. And probably caused the thing to sink a half hour to an hour faster than it would have if that hatch had remained closed. So, just one more thing, kill as many people as possible. Kill as many people as possible was the goal, obviously. Because there were ships on the way coming to rescue, and taking an hour off the time it stays afloat was beneficial for killing as many people as possible. So I don't believe that leaving that hatch open was an accident. So there you have the real story about the Titanic and why it sunk. It wasn't an accident. They steered towards all the captains at the trial. They had a trial and find out what happened and an investigation. All these sea captains had sailed the North Atlantic multiple times, said you should have been able to see an iceberg from 5-10 miles away. There should have been plenty of time to steer out of the way. There's never been an incident of a ship that's sunk from hitting an iceberg. And it's like they deliberately steered the thing to scrape the side of it, to damage 5 watertight compartments so the ship would sink. It's like they did that deliberately. And they always do things for multiple purposes. The White Star Line got rid of a ship that was going to cost them more money than they're going to make. They got more money than it was worth for insurance, and the sadists got to have their World War I, and their class struggles. And also they like to create fear. They feed off of fear, it seems. This does seem to be demons or negative entities of some kind seem to feed on fear. Destroying a ship like that adds the fear factor on a world scale. So that's why this was orchestrated. Like I said, they do things for multiple purposes. The rich, they watch their back. They make sure they keep staying rich. They make sure the poor stay poor. And they keep everybody in fear, and they kill and torture people for Satan or demons or evil or for evil cause, whatever. And the hellhole torture chamber called Planet Earth continues to be a hellhole torture chamber, okay?